David Collins.
30 minutes. Show with
David
Collins.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of David Collins' 30-minute half-hour show. I'm your host, David Collins, and we have another great episode for you today. Really looking forward to it. First, I want to go ahead and welcome any new listeners we might have out there. I understand that we are getting some attention from a brand new audience, so that's always exciting, and kudos to that. We have some announcements, a few quick announcements I wanted to make, of course. It is Women's History Month this month, so everybody happy Women's History Month. It was also St. Patrick's Day last week, so I wanted to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, and we're going to be talking about both those subjects a little later in the show. We have a great show planned for you today, a great guest, some great games, but before we get into that, of course, everybody's favorite color of the day. Today's color of the day, Kelly Green. And I feel like we've been doing a lot of greens lately, and I'm not too happy about that, but when it comes to St. Patrick's Day, it was recent, and the name Kelly comes from the common Irish name, made up of 76 red, 187 green, and 23 blue. Today's color of the day, Kelly Green. One last thing before we start the show. This week's sponsor of the show is Endzone in Manhattan, Kansas. At Endzone Sportswear, finding a partner to serve your marketing and promotional needs is important. Early in their history, they adopted a phrase, products as promised. That standard has pushed them to gain the trust of clients in every state, in every type of industry. In 2016, after over 25 years of success, Endzone moved to their new location, 9083 Green Valley Drive in Manhattan, Kansas, coming a long way in modernizing facilities and equipment and giving new unique opportunities to better serve their clients. From mugs and tumblers to banners and pens, and everything in between, Endzone offers a variety of products to help reach your customers or to solidify your brand. Find out more at nzsw.com or call them at 800-784-3234. Thank you, Endzone, for sponsoring today's episode. Today's guest is Donny Townsend, and we're going to get right into world news with David Collins. And when we have a guest on the show, I like to ask them, when you think of world news this week, what are you thinking about? Of course, St. Patrick's Day just passed. There was something I wanted to talk about St. Patrick's Day. A quick story from St. Patrick's Day. Did you hear about this? Did you see any of this? The Boston Parade. Did you hear any of that? The Boston Parade this year, a transit police officer noticed an armed 26-year-old man at Boston Parade Sunday.
A trans police officer?
A transit police officer. That's a great observation, though. I should make sure I'm clear. It was a transit police officer. He was arrested, not the officer, the man with a gun. He was arrested and found to be drunk and armed with a gun. What I thought was interesting about this story was that he was drunk. You know, a lot of the times you see these shooters and it's some sort of pills. This guy was drinking alcohol.
Huh. Old school.
Right. For St. Patrick's Day, we thought to celebrate the holiday, of course, it'd be a great time for a great song parody. So we were talking about with the team, and Dan McCullough decided to send in a great St. Patrick's Day song parody this week. So why don't we take a quick listen?
Have another drink, it's St. Patrick's Day. Grab a leprechaun hat and get drunk. Grab a Guinness, drink until you piss. I'm barely Irish, but I love to drink. Haim, St. Patrick's Day, Slanton, St. Patrick's Day. Dance the hora in an Irish jig. Cheers to St. Patrick's Day. Drink on St. Patrick's Day with bagels and corned beef on my plate.
What a great St. Patrick's Day song parody. Very topical, too.
Pretty good.
What did you think about that? Dan McCullough. You're familiar with Dan McCullough.
Remind me of, there's a place in France where the naked ladies dance. But,
well, that'd be a great song to parody, too. What reminded you about that?
It felt Egyptian, kind of. Is that an Egyptian song?
Well, actually, I believe that was over Hava Nagila.
Oh.
Which is not Egyptian. But if anybody knows that song, make sure you email me, dc30minutehalfhour
Is that a Muslim thing?
@gmail.com. I'm actually not too familiar. I believe it's Jewish.
Oh.
But, you know, there are very different sects of Judaism. Who knows exactly where that originates from? Did you hear about these Boeing? Are you following these Boeing planes falling out of the sky? This was a story. I've only seen, it's all happening all over the time. I've seen just in the last 2 weeks, 2 stories about just the wheels falling off of these planes on takeoff. Are you following any of these Boeing stories?
I saw something.
Well, one of these stories was in Japan just the last couple of weeks, and one was in Atlanta. An airport official who witnessed the landing of one of the wheels, Gary Glass, stated, at the speed and velocity it was coming down, it would have crushed somebody like a grape. 2 cars were damaged, and nobody was injured. When that didn't work, Boeing whistleblower Jonathan Barnett was found dead after reported suicide. Did you hear about that?
Is he the grape guy? Is he the one who said that about the grape?
Gary Glass. It was funny, though. Gary Glass making a grape comment. I'm not sure. He must be used to that. But no, Jonathan Barnett was a Boeing whistleblower who was testifying in a Boeing lawsuit.
Oh.
And he was found dead after reported suicide, a gunshot to the head. Well, I guess that whistle won't blow anymore.
What was he saying?
He was talking about how reckless they were putting some of these planes into the air, and they were looking at, possible fines for putting planes that they knew weren't safe to fly up into the air. But now one of the best witnesses has died, though. I guess actually the Boeing prosecuting team said, hey, we want to do something for you tomorrow. Don't fly out tonight. Wait till tomorrow. We'll do something, and then you can fly out the next day. Yeah, and the next day, John was dead from a suicide. I don't like to travel either.
Yeah, it would have been too obvious if they killed him in a plane crash.
Have you followed at all about this TikTok ban? Are you seeing this? Are you following this?
Yeah, I saw something.
They're talking about banning TikTok. As far as I understand, it's most recently passed the House. I'm not even sure what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
But it is going to be possibly coming into, I've read a little bit about this. It might be a First Amendment issue, they're saying. A little controversial. What I can't believe is that they're talking about banning dancing on the internet. What is this, virtual Footloose?
Yeah.
Are you following this TikTok ban?
Is that why? Because the dancing?
Are you in support of the TikTok ban?
No. I mean, I don't like TikTok, but I don't think, that's why. It's never why they tell you they're doing the thing.
Did you follow the Oscars at all last week? I wanted to talk a little about these Oscars. The Oscars were last week. You know what I found interesting? I thought the Oscars were many weeks ago. I thought I watched it. I was talking to people. I said, did you even know the Oscars happened this week? And they said yes. I guess that wasn't even the Oscars. I don't know what I watched.
It's like, oh, great, you guys are having another award ceremony?
Right.
How many of these are they going to have?
Well, they have a lot of them every year.
Just awards all the time for what?
Who's your favorite award?
I like the Westminster Dog Show. Yeah.
Well, that award show, I guess, is what you
Yeah, I guess, is that an award? It's probably a ribbon.
Well, I'm not too sure. Place. And all the Oscars news this year was taken over, it was glazed over by director Jonathan Glazer's pro-Gaza speech. Did you hear about that?
No.
Well, he gave a speech. It was a big news, and there was a little controversy there having to do with the Oscars. At least we can finally all agree, though, this year's Oscars was just white enough.
Yeah. It's all these theater people.
Right.
Giving speeches
Did
about
you watch the Oscars?
Politics. No.
Well, I thought it was a lot of fun this year. John Cena being naked. What a riot.
Oh, I saw something about that.
And it was in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Streaker.
Huh.
There was a Streaker 50 years ago. It's a long story. I love the Oscars.
The doorknob jizzer?
Did you think of any other news stories you wanted to talk about this week?
You ever hear about the guy that got busted because he would always jizz on people's doorknobs?
Really? Well, I am a fan of pranks. April Fool's is coming up. I tried to stay away from the dirty stuff, of course, but that was like a great prank.
Sorry, this is a morning show.
Well, people listen to it at all times of the day there. And that was...
I shouldn't have said jizz.
That was World News with David Collins. You can say whatever you'd like. Of course, Jerry does a great job in the background. He bleeps things if they need to be bleeped.
That's good.
Today's guest is a local Quad Cities comedian that's toured all over the Midwest. Described as violent and voracious... He's opened for great comedians like Doug Stanhope, Emo Phillips, Kyle Kinane, Sam Talent, Alan Strickland Williams, Kurt Metzger, Sam Tripley, Chris Schlichting, Toll McRain, Ryan O'Flanagan, and Ryan Singer. Regionally, he's performed at any venue you can name, including Village Theater, Riplack Entertainment, The Lucky Cat, Harrington's Pub, Penguins Comedy Club, The Black Hawk Room, In the Alley behind Leedy Focus Art Center, the Sanctuary Pub, and many more. Other guests have mentioned him plenty. Please welcome today's great guest, Donny Townsend.
Thanks, man.
And welcome to the show,
I'm glad
Donny.
I made it. Yeah.
Well, we've been looking forward. This has really been a hard time getting this scheduled. It's been a little insane,
Yeah,
but I'm
it's
so
rough.
happy to have you on the show there.
I'm happy to be here.
One thing I know, and we want to learn more about you, Donny,
Yeah,
of
you
course.
do.
I had some questions right off the bat, but we do have to get into one segment right away.
David Cuttings.
Captivating developments.
DC's CDs. And we have a few captivating developments I wanted to get into right away today. Of course, it was St. Patrick's Day that just passed, and I wanted to talk about, did you do anything for St.
I
Patrick's
thought
Day?
we covered this in world news.
No, we didn't cover that. Of course, we covered the holiday, but what did you do for St. Patrick's Day?
Oh.
I met up with Jerry and Amelia, and we went down to Galena, Illinois, and saw the parade. St. Patrick's Day parade.
Don't they have dachshund races there?
They do in
like a wiener
October,
dog.
I believe. Oktoberfest. Maybe we'll have to cover that next year. A lot of areas around here do some very extravagant Oktoberfests.
Yeah,
but of
they
course,
do.
St. Patrick's Day parade, maybe we'll end up seeing some of that footage in the reality show. And thanks so much to everybody who watched that first episode of David Collins' 30-minute half-hour reality show that did come out last week. It was very exciting. We had a lot
Did you
of
say
positive
next
comments.
last week?
Next last week. It was last week, of course. A little
Makes
bit of
sense.
a miss. Maybe we'll cut
By
that
the time
out.
it comes out, it was that week, but it was the next.
Well, by the
week.
time this comes out, it would have been a couple of weeks ago, I believe. We've really had to push
This
this
is a
out
time
a little
machine
bit.
you created.
Right. Secondly, here you've kind of distracted me. You're a time machine that's very extravagant. It's got my mind going, and I've been spending so much time with these comedians. I love to riff, but we have to focus on the show, of course.
You're
We have
right.
some other things. Appearing on a variety of shows recently. I'm sure some of you have noticed. I've been appearing on a variety of shows, including Who Are the Podcasts, Blind Mike Project, The Johnny O Podcast, Hack Ride Studios shows. I even appeared on, are you familiar with Wendy from The Howard Stern Show?
Oh. Like
I wasn't too familiar at all, but I actually ended up appearing on one of her live streams this week, and that was interesting. She's a member of the Whack Pack.
Oh.
So it was fine. And that's not all. I may also be appearing on another show pretty soon here. We have a bit of an invite, but I'm not sure. They had threatened that maybe they're going to be opening up a full investigation about me, so I'm not sure what that means. What could they find? Maybe they'll find out that I juggle. But it would be great to end up on that show, so we're looking forward to that. Definitely keep an eye out. Lastly, I just wanted to touch base. Now, are you familiar with comedian Joe Matarese?
No.
Comedian Joe Matarese and I have become good friends over the last few months, I'd say. We've been DMing in the background, and there was some news this week. He's a great New York City comedian. Yeah, that's accurate to say. He appeared on America's Got Talent. He's very well known.
Joe
and he's
Matarese.
becoming a good friend of mine. A lot of people give him a hard time, but I think
They
that's
do?
just because he's so talented.
Why do they give
They're
him a hard time?
Maybe he's threatening. I'm not sure. We're becoming very close though. And I had some news. I heard some news last week that he was actually going to be stopping his podcast and going completely into stand-up, just dropping the podcast entirely. So I reached out to him concerned. I said, Joe, I'm a big fan, and he has reassured me that after some thought, he will be back, and he's just going to be doing a weekly show instead of whatever he was doing before. So that's great. Thank you, Joe, for letting me know. And if anybody else is curious about that, make sure you email me, dc30minutehalfhour@gmail.com. You're not familiar with Joe Matarese.
No, I don't think so. Maybe. Maybe I've ran across
I'm
him.
sure you'd hear one of his jokes and say, no, I've heard that before.
Yeah, probably.
Do you have any captivating developments?
As far as what?
Any developments in your life? Anything exciting happening?
Oh, I have a show tonight, and I don't want to do it.
You're listening to
David Collins.
30 minutes.
Show with David Collins.
Listen at work, at home, or on your device. Stream us now.
And if you're just tuning in, we're here with Donny Townsend, and we're about to find out exactly about his comedy here, and we're really looking forward to it. I was curious, though, about your
I'm
stand-up
glad you have
comedy.
this project to do.
I'm sorry?
I'm glad you have a project.
Well, we have a lot of things going on here,
Yeah, I'm
of
glad
course.
you're working on stuff because
It's tough, I've just
Yeah.
need to keep working, and we're getting
you
back
have
in the
to,
industry
dude.
there.
Yeah, I don't want to see you not
Are you
working.
familiar at all with my background?
I mean, I've looked into you a little bit. That's why I'm glad that you have a project. You know,
That's fair to say, of course.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, on top of your stand-up, do you do anything on TikTok? Do you do anything on YouTube? How do you kind of operate there?
I look around on YouTube.
Do you do things?
Earlier,
do you
I was
put
looking
out
up
content?
everything wrong with the Boston bombing in 20 minutes. But
Really?
It's not on there anymore. You ever see that? It's really good.
Everything wrong with the Boston bombing in 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Well, I'd say you wouldn't even need 20 minutes to
No.
kind of get that out. I'd say Boston bombing, stop right there.
Exactly.
Something's
That's
wrong
it.
with that.
But then you're like, there's a bomb made out of a crock pot.
You know, and I want to hear more about your comedy and maybe even this Boston
I know you
Marathon
do.
situation here.
Yeah.
But of course, that sound means it's time for our first game. And our first game today is made just for you. I'm very much looking forward to it. Our first game today is called Donny Townsend Tells Us What Comedian That Town's In. And it's a multiple choice game here.
Yeah.
We're gonna name a town and a state, and you're gonna have to tell us which comedian was born there.
Okay.
Are you ready to play? Donny Townsend tells us what comedian that town's in.
Is it because my last name's Townsend?
Well, it's also
Yeah.
because you're so familiar with so many
With
comedians.
towns.
Now, this is somebody, we haven't gotten a moment to get into this yet, but you are somebody that's very knowledgeable in terms of comedy and other comedians.
Yeah, I know a lot about towns too, you know.
That's perfect. So this should
Yeah.
be a perfect game for you. Why don't we jump into round one? Round one of Donny Townsend tells us what comedian that town's in. Elizabeth, Colorado.
I don't like you saying round one.
A little nervous. It's gonna be okay. I promise. You know, we don't want to bring too much attention to
I'm
it, but
sorry.
the right people are gonna know.
noticed it.
Is it A, Doug Stanhope, B, Alan William Strickland, C, Sam Talent, or D, Allie Makovsky?
Oh, I don't know who she is.
Elizabeth, Colorado. Anybody else wants to play this game, make sure you email me, dc30minutehalfhour@gmail.com. Elizabeth, Colorado.
Did you say cheesemail.com? How come it always has to be .com?
I apologize. Unfortunately, you have ran out of time.
Yeah.
And it's not actually the case. It does have to be .com. Many people do have a .net, certainly, especially once you get into a company. That answer was Sam Talent.
Yeah, cool.
Sam Talent.
Can you clap?
Well, that's silly. It reminds me of a tiny clap sketch that I saw recently. We can't get into that right now. Why don't we look at round two? Round two. Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York. Which comedian of these four is born in Brooklyn, New York? Is it A, Chris Rock, B, Jerry Seinfeld, C, Dave Chappelle, or D, Andrew Schultz?
Huh.
Brooklyn, New
Are there some
York.
other ones in there?
Chris Rock, a fun fact, Andrew Dice Clay, born in Brooklyn, New York. Not one of the options.
Huh. Yeah, I'm going to go with Andrew Dice Clay.
Chris Rock, Andrew Schultz, Jerry Seinfeld, or Dave Chappelle?
I'm going Dice Man.
I apologize, that was not an option. The answer was B, Jerry Seinfeld.
He's a Brooklyn guy.
He was born in Brooklyn. You know, Andrew Schultz, born in New York, New York. So a bit of a trick question, of course.
Yeah.
But not
Chris
that you
Rock's from New York too, right?
Chris Rock was born in South Carolina.
Oh, he was?
A little trick, you know, you
that
never
is a
know.
trick.
Of course, a New York comedian. though.
Andrew
Do you
Dice
like
Clay
this
was
game?
born in Brooklyn.
That's right.
Yeah.
Andrew Dice Clay. Do you like this game?
Yeah, it's fun.
Round three. Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati,
Gabe Kia.
Ohio. You know, I have a fun story. You know, I can't even get into it, though. I don't really want to give too much details, but after the Las Vegas shooting, I drove by a Kia, and they didn't have their flags at half-mast. I called the Kia. I said, why is your flag up at the top? This is horrendous. And you know what they did? They said, we're going to get it fixed, and we hung up.
Did you check back?
Round three, Cincinnati, Ohio. Is it A, Tom Segura, B, Bert Kreischer, C, Joe Rogan, or D, Tim Dillon?
Who are
Cincinnati,
they again?
Ohio. Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Joe Rogan, or Tim Dillon?
Let's go Tom. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's great. That was right. Tom Segura.
Was it?
Cincinnati,
he was a
Ohio.
Go Bananas guy.
He was born in Cincinnati. What does that mean?
That's the club there. Go Bananas.
Well, that was Donny Townsend tells us what comedian that town's in. And we'd love to hear more about your style there. So you don't put anything out on TikTok.
No.
You don't put anything out on YouTube. Now, do you record your sets and put them out on YouTube? That's something we've been doing. We've been recording all of our sets. I've been going out and I've been doing stand-up comedy for the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And we've been practicing. You know what I found? You record your sets, you can watch them, and
I don't
maybe
really need
pull
to
something.
document the stuff I do sometimes, you know?
Is that right?
It's cool, like, just leave it where it is, you know?
How would you describe your style of comedy?
I don't know.
How long
Maybe,
have you been doing comedy?
Me? Like 10 years.
Has your style changed? You know,
Yeah,
I'll tell
for
you,
sure.
when I first started, I actually started about 10 years ago also.
Yeah.
Been doing it off and on, but mostly on the last couple of months. I haven't really done it too much before
Yeah,
then.
you've been doing it for that long, huh?
But I did start 10 years ago, of course, with, you know, it's a bit of a story. We've talked about it on the show. It was back in my college days. I had the opportunity to do a show guest spot for Mark Norman, which is very exciting.
Sweet.
And that's a great story.
Where was that at?
I would say that my style of it was at Stanford and Sons Comedy Club. But when I first started comedy, I was a bit of a storyteller. I'd want to talk about my day. Now I think I've developed into a more of a joke writer. How would you describe your style of comedy?
It's like a fractured hall of mirrors, kind of.
You know, we had somebody on the show, Dana Moss Peterson, that talked a lot about you. He called himself a rant comic.
Yeah, he's kind of a rant guy. He wears fingerless gloves, you know.
So you're a broken glass comedian. What does that mean?
I mean, I'll just do whatever it takes, man. You know, I'll just.
Do you ever do an impression?
Being a carny.
If you do impressions?
I do a Greta Thunberg impression.
Is that right? That'd be interesting. You know, I actually interviewed Greta Thunberg the month after, in 2017, the month after that New York Times episode. If anybody wants to listen to that Greta Thunberg interview, make sure you check out episode 3 of David Collins' 30-minute half-hour show.
I have a good impression of her, I think.
I'd love to hear it.
It's like a arfta barfta tarfta tarfta parfta tarfta hefta tarfta parfta tarfta.
Well, that's pretty good. Do you know what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like, how dare you,
Wow.
in Swedish.
Well, that'd be great. If anybody likes that impression, make sure you email me, dc30minutehalfhour@gmail.com. But I did want to get into this. We've been pushing back this segment for weeks and weeks and weeks. Dave G, and my old coworker Dave G, does the mornings for 101.5 K-Rock. He likes to post on Facebook occasionally and ask a K-Rocker, and it really gets people writing on the Facebook and have something to talk about the next day. And a couple weeks ago, he did a fun Ask a K-Rocker. Dave G posted, for today's Ask a K-Rocker, we want to know, who is your favorite movie villain? A few weeks ago was actor Christopher McDonald's birthday. He played morning host Dave G's favorite movie villain, Shooter McGavin. Does anybody know who Shooter McGavin is? Make sure you let me know. Who do you know who Shooter McGavin is?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's a golf player.
Well, let me know. What do you think your favorite movie
Villain?
is? I'll tell you my favorite movie villain. Yeah, I like a movie that has a more abstract villain. My favorite movie villain is from Harold and Maude. The lingering aura of death, I think, is a great movie villain, and I like that when it's not exactly a direct threat or a person. Who's your favorite movie villain?
Would you consider Mr. Bean a villain?
Mr. Bean, that's interesting. In what film?
I like Johnny English. He's sort of malevolent a little bit.
Right.
That's a difference between Mr. Magoo and Mr. Bean, I think.
Are they similar?
Well, they both cause chaos everywhere they go.
Oh, they're both misters.
But Mr. Magoo, it's a total accident. With Mr. Bean, he's looking for trouble.
You know, I've seen instances where you just say, hey, mister, and it causes chaos just by doing that. I can't imagine you have a silly name like Bean afterwards.
Yeah.
Other people answered in the comments there. They wrote things like Mike Myers as Dr. Evil, the Mom from Billy Madison, Brad Pitt from Inglourious Bastards. Those are some good answers.
I think so.
Movie villains. Are you a fan of movies?
A lot of villains are like heroes now, though.
Now
the rise of the anti-hero.
That's true.
You know?
Can you give me an example?
I mean, some people would say Batman sort of is.
Right, especially these newer ones.
Like
Batman with a gun.
Tony Soprano.
I'm not familiar.
You never watched The Sopranos?
No.
Yeah. How about Deadwood? You ever watch Deadwood?
No. Are you a cinephile? You sound like you're very familiar with these movies.
What? That sounds weird.
Well, incidentally,
that seems like accusatory.
People with the same name.
And that brings us to our next segment, people with the same name. And we like to bring this up every few weeks here. It's always interesting. Did you know that there's somebody else with the name Donny Townsend?
Oh, yeah.
Who do you know with Donny Townsend as the name?
I don't know any of them.
That's interesting.
But I've looked on like social media, you know.
This man was from Columbus, Ohio. He was a boxer, heavyweight boxer. He boxed from 1981 to 1987.
That's
Donny
sweet.
Townsend.
Is he Donny with an IE?
Nope, he was spelled the exact same
Really?
way there.
That's cool. There's a Donny Townsend with an IE who's a Christian illusionist.
Illusionist. Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. There's
Yeah.
a lot of entertainers, these Donny Townsends.
Yeah. It'd be cool to like see if he'd let me use his website.
Do you think people share websites? Bit of a Groupon situation.
Yeah.
He was a heavyweight. He boxed a total of 135 rounds in 33 total fights. It's a lot of rounds. That's because so many of his fights went to decision. He had 4 total wins over his career, all of which being decision, and 29 total losses, 11 of which being knockouts. That's a tough career. He never got to knock anybody
Donny
out.
Townsend.
Oh, he's a tough guy. He kept fighting.
He's a heavyweight.
Even after 28 knockouts or 28 losses, he still decided to fight.
Was he a black guy?
I actually didn't look up. And, based on it, I don't want to get too much into it, but some people have encouraged me to not assume races these days.
Well, I just say last name. There's a lot of black Townsends,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Have you ever fought? Do you fight like a boxer? Do you have anything? I'll tell you, in high school, I started a fight club. You ever been involved in a fight club?
No.
I started this with about 2 people, and over the course of 6 events, it grew to about 30 people in a backyard, in a very nice backyard, in fact. But I'll tell you a fun story. We were doing this fight club, and we wanted this football player to fight, and he said, I don't want to hurt anybody. He's very precocious, did not want to get involved in the fight club. We finally encourage him, and he's matched up with somebody else about his size, immediately just form tackles the guy and starts wailing on him for about 8 seconds, and then he gets up and starts crying and said, I didn't want to fight, I didn't want to do this. Fight club was a lot of fun growing up. Did you have any instances like that growing up?
No, not really. My first friend in Iowa was this kid, and I'd hang out with him, and we'd walk on the train tracks, and he would like huff gas.
Off the train tracks?
Yeah. No, you just have like a Mountain Dew bottle full of gas, and he would like huff it.
I think we have different childhoods.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm emailing David Collins.
And that sound means, of course, it's time for David Collins call-ins and emails. And I think we only have one voicemail we have to get to today. Oh, right. Well, why don't we start with this one email from Daniel from Wisconsin. Daniel writes, Dear David, I heard about your show after seeing you at an open mic in Wisconsin. I'm glad I did. I like the show, but your stand-up comedy was a little mean. What you said about Taylor Swift was horrible. I hope that you are writing some cleaner jokes. Daniel. Well, of course, Daniel, thanks so much for checking out the show. I'm glad that you're liking this. Of course, stand-up comedy, you could say anything up there.
Yeah, but you can't make fun of Taylor Swift, though.
People seem to like the joke. It's getting mixed reviews. I said, wow, that was a little far gone. I'm leaving the venue. Somebody stops me. They grab my shoulder.
You have that bit about cutting her head off or something?
No, but we do have a lot of face material. I don't want to get too much into it, of course. You'll see that on the reality show.
Oh.
We try to keep a little separation there, but thanks so much for writing that in, Daniel. Now, I'm not sure if you wanted to participate at all in this, Donny. Now, I thought this would be fun. I got a few emails about this, and a couple people were reaching out, so I thought that would be important.
Okay. Get your laptop out.
In California, there's a woman named Daisy, and she goes by Daisy, the Santa Monica Healer. Now, what she does is she's a homeless woman in Santa Monica that likes to walk the beaches and walk on people's backs and help them heal. She sometimes will make a tiny home. It's a very interesting thing that I've been following. If you search her, I believe I don't even know the channel, but it's Daisy, the Santa Monica Healer. But she had put out a message to her audience that said, hey, call me, and we want an interesting voicemail. I'm not sure exactly, but I thought that would be an interesting thing. Why don't we reach out to Daisy live on the show? Would you like to do that with me?
Are we listening to her voicemail, or are you actually just calling
We're
her?
going to call Daisy and see what happens.
It's cool. Sounds like a nice lady. She's homeless?
As far as I understand, she is a homeless woman.
But she's got a phone.
I think that's the first thing. I think people get phones before they get homes these days.
Yeah.
Well, let's give her a shot and see if she answers. Daisy, the Santa Monica Healer. Oh, well, that's too bad.
You leave her a voicemail?
But that was Daisy, the Santa Monica Healer. I thought she'd be an interesting person to talk to on the show.
Yeah,
I thought you
fun.
might have something to say.
I would like that.
You're a bit of a healer yourself.
Yeah. I just went and got a massage the other day.
Right. And you're very familiar. You'd be able to tell somebody the difference between chiropractic and a massage.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Daisy would be able to do the same. That was kind of the interesting question I had
what kind
for
of
her.
healer is she? Some people are like, spiritual healers.
I think you pegged her right there.
Like Reiki.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
They
I've heard
hover
her
their hands around you.
explain it at all.
But if she walks on your back, I don't know. I was imagining this homeless woman that doesn't wear shoes walking on your back.
That you're picturing the woman.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about that after the show, I think. I'll get you in touch with this Daisy.
Yeah.
And then you could pick that up yourself here. We got one voicemail this week from friend of the show, Austin Ingalls. And it's important that we also mention Austin Ingalls has a new show on YouTube. He's doing fun interviews, Austin Before Austin, where he talks to comedians. And then he's going to film, I think, going to Austin. And then he'll pick up the show Austin in Austin.
Huh.
And that's interesting. Make sure you follow Austin Ingalls on YouTube. But he likes to call in and send us a nice joke every once in a while. So why don't we take a little listen to this voicemail by friend of the show, Austin Ingalls.
David, happy March.
Thank you.
March is Women's History Month. I know how important it is for you, David, to celebrate women's history. You're always talking about equality in comedy and how women are funnier than men and how there should be more women in comedy. You always say that. I don't think you've ever gone a day without saying that, David.
I do.
But anyway, I just wanted to share a little something I wrote. March is Women's History Month. Now march in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. Thanks, David.
And thank you, Austin Ingalls. That was a little risque, but he's always sending in great jokes. What do you think about Austin Ingalls?
I love him. Yeah, he's a fun guy.
What a fun guy. What a joke writer, too. He's always coming out with new material. Do you write as much as Austin Ingalls, would you say? Does anybody around here write as much as Austin Ingalls?
I didn't know he wrote that much.
He does. He
Does
writes. He writes it down. He writes it on his phone.
I mean, what he just said was gold. You could tell he's been thinking about stuff.
Yeah, he's saying topical, of course, and we like to stay topical here with Women's History Month. And I think we're going to be talking about that pretty soon here. We got a couple emails that we just have to finish up, of course. We had one from Ronnie from New York. Ronnie wrote, always a great surprise when you're on the Blind Mike Project as we get more than 30 minutes of David Collins. Well, thanks so much for that email, Ronnie. It's always great to be on that Blind Mike Project. We're becoming closer, although I'm a little suspicious. I've gotten some information recently about a few of those figures that I've spent time with. I'm a little nervous. We may have to take not from Blind Mike, of course, but I've already said too much. We got one other email here from Logan, and he emailed with the title Hack Ride. I'm not sure where you're from, Logan, but the subject was Hack Ride. He wrote, David, I don't want to go into detail regarding why I know you're onto something. That succubus knows it too. He hijacked that episode and he will do it again. If you must do business with him, make sure you prepare for his BS and turn it on him. But I prefer, humbly, that you get shed of that window liquor. Kind regards, Logan Day. And I apologize, Logan, for that typo. I'm not sure even what you meant. And Logan Day, could you possibly be related to Hack Ride with that last name? I'm not exactly sure. Donnie, do you have any opinion on any of those voicemails? Any emails, any thoughts? We had it from Ronnie, of course, talking about Blind Mike and Logan.
I'm glad you're making friends.
Well, it is nice. It's always nice that these people are reaching out. And we're probably going to have to start reading those comments on the air pretty soon there. Do you have any do fans ever reach out to you? If you're at a comedy show, do you give them any contact information?
Not really. I just kind of hide, Not always.
Well, I'm not sure
exactly. I was like the Norm Macdonald thing, where like...
The Norm Macdonald thing? Yeah. I'm not too familiar. I was going to let you finish there, but of course that sound does mean it's time for our second game.
Oh, there's another game?
We have another game here,
and that's our last 30
game.
Minutes.
You're exactly right. Our second game today is called Women's History Trivia. Of course, we're going to go over some facts about a mysterious woman, and you're going to have to identify which famous woman these facts are attributed to. Are you ready to play Women's History Trivia?
Susan B. Anthony.
Well, we'll see if that's on the list somewhere in here. Why don't we start here with round one?
Harriet Tubman.
This famous woman had 6 brothers.
Laverne and Shirley.
6 brothers and 1 sister. This famous woman died in Hampshire. And your third clue, this famous woman wrote many books. And don't worry, it's multiple choice here. 6 brothers and 1 sister died in Hampshire and wrote many books. Now, you're a bit of a reader.
B. Arthur.
Let's see. Remember, it's a woman here. Is it A, Princess Diana, B, Jane Austen, C, Ada Lovelace, or D, Rosa Parks?
Oh, it's probably the one that's a writer.
Which one do you think that is?
What's her name?
Princess
Jane?
Diana.
Is it Jane?
Jane Austen, Ada Lovelace, or Rosa Parks?
I mean, I'm sure they've all know how to write.
6 brothers and 1 sister died in Hampshire and wrote many books.
Huh. What's Hampshire?
You know, I'm so sorry you have run out of time. That answer was Jane Austen. You know, I feel like you would be doing much better on these games if we just gave you a little more time, and I apologize for that. It's just a quick show that we have to get through. Jane Austen was an English novelist known primarily for her 6 novels, which implicitly interpret, critique, and comment upon the British landed gentry at the end of the 18th century. Jane Austen, are you familiar?
Oh, is this another question? Or is this the same
that was
one?
who Jane Austen is. Why don't we jump into round 2? Do you like this game? Would you say you like the first game more than this game?
It's the same game.
Well, it's certainly a different game. Why don't we jump into round 2 here? Women's history trivia. Round 2. This famous woman was born in Kansas. She died at age 39 doing what she loved.
Shirley
And
Temple.
She was inducted into New York's National Women's Hall of Fame. Is it A, Anne Frank, B, Eleanor Roosevelt, C, Amelia Earhart, or D, Ada Lovelace?
I have to go. You didn't say Helen Keller. Who's the other one?
She was
Anne
born
Frank.
in
Anne Frank.
Kansas, died at 39 doing what she loved, inducted into New York's National Women's Hall
Was
of
it
Fame.
the deaf chick that was in the attic?
I'm sorry, it was C, Amelia Earhart.
Oh.
Are you familiar with Amelia Earhart?
Yeah, she's the airplane.
That's right. Earhart was the first female aviator to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean.
There was a lot of that back then.
She set many records. She was also one of the first aviators to promote commercial air travel.
Yeah.
Amelia
there used to be
Earhart.
hot air balloons.
Why don't we look at round 3? Would you ever fly in a hot air balloon?
It might have been safer. What's the big accident that
The
happened?
Zeppelin. Oh,
Yeah.
the humanity. Round 3. This famous woman, at age 17, she won a beauty pageant. Number 2, her clue 2, she appeared in her first movie in 1985. And she also, CNN and Time once called her arguably the world's most powerful woman.
Is it Hitler?
Maybe Mrs.
She was on the cover of Time magazine.
That would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe maybe these days. Is it A, Madonna? Is it B, Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Is it C, Oprah Winfrey? Or is it D, Mary Curie?
I mean,
At age 17, she won a beauty pageant, appeared in her first movie in 1985. Arguably the most powerful woman.
I mean, I do know a lot about beauty pageants, you know.
Which of these 4 do you think might have won? Madonna, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Oprah Winfrey, or Mary Curie?
It's probably, the first lady.
It was not Madonna. It was Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, it was Oprah?
An American talk show host, television producer, actress, author, and media proprietor. She is best known for her talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, broadcast from Chicago, which ran in national syndication for 25 years. Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Oprah?
Yeah.
All these women, I guess, could have won a beauty pageant, but the answer was Oprah. Did you like this game?
Yeah, it was fun.
Did you enjoy the show? We have reached the end of the show today.
We have.
Donny Townsend.
Thanks
a
for
great
having me.
comedian. Do you have anything you want to say to our audience? Anything to promote? Do you have any
just,
questions for me?
Yeah, keep emailing David here.
Yeah, we love the emails, but
Yeah.
do you have any questions for me? Anything else?
No.
Well, it
I
was a
don't.
great
Sorry.
episode. Thank you.
It was fun.
Thanks so much again. What a great episode. That's perfect.
This is a great, fun show.
Everybody listening, I've been David Collins, and you've been the best.
David
Collins.
30 minutes.
Show with David Collins.